everyone. My name is Casey Reinecke, and I'm a PM on the Microsoft Excel team. I'm excited to be your host and moderator for today's event. We're so happy you decided to join us today to learn more about the evolution of Excel and the latest data types we're announcing, which will allow you to connect and use data from your own organization. We have a panel of engineers from the Excel team watching live with you right now. So please use the Ask a Question button to ask us your questions as they come up. We'll be answering some of your questions in the chat area during the presentation, but we'll also spend about 10 minutes afterwards with our wonderful panel of engineers from the Excel team. So we'll save some of your questions for them to answer then. Just over 2 years ago, we introduced stocks and geography data types in Excel. These two new data types were the beginning of a journey to transform Excel from a tool that simply manipulates your data into a tool that really understands your data. Today, building on this vision, we're excited to announce more new data types coming to Excel. Organizations can now transform Power BI data into data types. Those data types can be easily discovered and used by anyone in your organization, with peace of mind from using connected and refreshable data from a known source. Additionally, regardless of whether you use Power BI or not, you now have the ability to create custom data types from any supported source of data in Power Query, from organizational databases to tables embedded in a web page. Lastly, if you're not already an Office Insider, we hope you'll join the program to get a sneak preview and give us your feedback of some more new data types powered by Wolfram Alpha. Before I go into the details on how the latest data types work, I just want to take a step back and share a bit more about what we mean when we talk about data types in general, and why we think it'll help people be so much more productive. First, what do we even mean when we talk about Excel data types or linked data types? Essentially, it comes down to what the Excel grid is capable of containing. Instead of just basic strings of text or numbers, the cells themselves within Excel can now contain much more complex entries, interactive cards, visuals and images, matrices and arrays, and even more complex ideas in the future. Our blanket term for these complex entries is data types. Here's an example of what I mean. If I type in a quick list of cities, with a single click, I can convert them from plain text into rich data types. Now, each of these cells here isn't just a string of text. They each contain an interactive card full of other information, even images. I can extract any of this information into the grid with a click. New data types give you more ways to see your data, capture a concept in a cell, organize and structure, or contain volumes of related information in a single entry. You can then use all the familiar Excel tools, direct reference, XLOOKUP, data validation, all of it, with these richer objects. And the attached data is always accessible when you need it. I also now have more trust in the data I'm working with. I know this isn't just a number. If I click on it, I can see from the formula that this is the population of Seattle. I don't need to worry about where this number came from and when it was last updated. I also just want to make a quick call out to some of the AI at work behind the scenes here. You probably noticed that Excel didn't ask me to validate if Portland referred to Portland, Maine, or Portland, Oregon. That's because Excel is getting smarter. It recognized Portland in a column with Seattle and Tacoma and made a logical assumption that I was listing West Coast cities. Many of the data types you'll see are linked to live sources of underlying data. We sometimes refer to these as linked data types. If I'm working with information that's changing regularly, I want to make sure I have the latest data. This particular data type is connected to Bing services. Anytime that is updated, I can rest assured that I have the latest data in my workbook just by clicking refresh. People rely on up-to-date information to make the best decisions, and data types that are connected to live data ensure you get exactly that, while eliminating manual workflows that are often required to keep things current. With linked data types, anyone can update their spreadsheets, templates, or other solutions by simply clicking Refresh Data. Since introducing stocks and geography last year, we heard it clearly from you that you want to use your own data. Power BI is the ideal source with its best-in-class service that allows for shared, controlled, and secure access to data from all kinds of corporate sources. Just like stocks and geography, you can now find data types from your organization in the Data Types Gallery. They are featured tables in Power BI that are available to you based on workspace and dataset permissions. In this first scenario, I have some customer feedback that I need to address. Using the customer data type in the gallery, I can get additional data like contact information and order totals. Each user has a custom gallery showing only the data types they have access to, and they are prioritized based on the Power BI certified and promoted labels set by the admins or experts at the company. Once I click the Customer button, Excel connects to the Power BI service to retrieve the information. You can see that the file now has a Microsoft Information Protection label in the business bar. Microsoft Information Protection labels carry through from Power BI to Excel, helping to ensure the security of your organization's data and prevent accidental loss or misuse. Security and privacy are always top of mind for us as we build new value into our products and services. You can see that the cells now have the suitcase icon to show that they are data types from my organization. I can click the icon and see information in the card or extract the fields to the grid. In this case, let's pull out the contact name, phone number to reach out to them, and order totals. I can also sort this information based on country without needing to extract the field to the grid. Now let's look at how we can use data types to build more elaborate spreadsheets. In this case, we have an invoice template that uses customer and product information. All of the Bill To section is being populated with customer information. I can choose a different customer and all the information gets updated. Things like their discount percentage and qualification. Now I can get the product's unit price by converting them to data types. And then extracting the unit price to the grid. If I need to change the product, all I need to do is type over in the already converted cell and get all the relevant information. Let's look at a final example using the product data type. In this case, I'm tracking the inventory for a few critical products. From this list of products, I want to understand how much inventory there is and what needs to be reordered. So I'm using conditional formatting to show this in the inventory price column and highlighting the rows that need to be reordered. Now, I can take the rest of these products in my list, and with a click, I can convert them into data types. Now, all their related information populates the grid. And with my conditional formatting, I can see how their inventory stacks up. Using organization data types from Power BI gives me peace of mind because I know information is coming from a centralized source. Anyone using the file can tell where the data is coming from. And since all of this is connected data coming from Power BI, I can update my workbook anytime by simply clicking Refresh Data, and I instantly have the most up-to-date information. If you're an Excel Power user, you're probably building custom solutions for your team or organization. You now have more tools at your disposal to build amazing solutions in Excel and make workbooks easier to consume for others. In Power Query, you can now create your very own custom data types using any source of organization data available within the Get Data menu. I'll show you one quick, simple example of how you do this. Here, I have a workbook of customer information with many, many columns of data. You're probably familiar with workbooks like this. You have to scroll way far to the right to see all the data. Let's use custom data types to make this workbook a little easier to consume. First, I go into the Data tab to connect the data I want to use. In the Get Data menu, you can see all the different sources I can pull from: files, databases, Azure, online services, and a whole bunch of other sources, even things like web pages that contain tables of data. For this example, I'm going to use the same workbook I just showed you. Here it is. Let's import this. I click Transform Data to work with the data in the Power Query editor. I want to create a data type that holds all my customer information. To do that, I just select all the columns in here that contain customer information. And right here in the ribbon, I have this button that lets me create my data type. All I have to do is name my data type. We'll call it customer. And I pick which field I want displayed in my display column, customer name. This is the field that will be displayed when I go back to my workbook. It will hold the data card with all the additional information about my customers. Now you can see this customer column contains my new data type. That was a super simple example, but let's create another data type with this same data. This time, I'll create a data type for my products. If I want, I can rename columns to make them more meaningful or specific. Let's change this one from product label to SKU. And I can do other data hygiene steps like applying filters. Now, just as before, I select the columns I want collapsed into my data type. This time, just for fun, I can right-click and see the same option in my right-click menu to create my data type. I'll name my data type and select the display column. And here's my second data type for products. Now, when I go back to this workbook, instead of all those columns I showed you before, I have a neat, clean workbook with two custom data types for my products and customers. If I click on these, you can see all the additional information contained inside their data cards, which I can, of course, extract to the grid anytime I want to work with it there. From here, I can build more sophisticated solutions and templates, like the invoice and inventory examples you saw using Power BI. And of course, you might guess where I'm going because the data in my custom data types are connected to a live source. All I need to do to make sure this workbook has the most up-to-date information is click Refresh Data. Power Query gives you ultimate flexibility and control in creating your own data types with your own data. We hope this will foster ingenuity and spark creativity as you're building workbooks, templates, and other awesome solutions. The last thing I want to briefly touch on are the new data types coming to Microsoft 365 personal or family subscribers. We are currently previewing the first of over 100 new data types that will pull rich information from Wolfram Alpha's online service into Excel. The data types will cover topics ranging from chemistry and planets to movies and universities. We'll be sharing more information about Wolfram Alpha data types as we get closer to general availability. In the interim, we hope you'll join the Office Insiders program and give us your feedback. As people are faced with more and more data, finding simpler ways to discover and connect to easy-to-use, credible, and refreshable data is more critical than ever. We believe the new data types in Excel that we're announcing today will address this user need, simplifying information gathering and consumption, saving people time, and providing them with the trusted data sources they need to make the best decisions possible. You may have seen people answering your questions during the presentation, and I'm happy to now introduce my teammates Carrie, David, Wukash, and Guy, who have been working tirelessly to bring you the experiences that you have seen today. We've picked a few of the questions that came up during the presentation, and now we'll look like the Brady Bunch for a bit while we have the engineers answer here. So we'll just take the first question, and Wukash, I'll give this question to you. The customer asks, are Excel certified data sets the same as Power BI certified data sets?
Yeah, thank you for that question. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Wukash. I'm on the Power BI engineering team, and I've been working with all these folks on the call to really bring this capability, and we're delighted to talk with you about it. So in Power BI, you can take a data set and mark it as a certified data set or a promoted data set. And so when we talk about the certified and promoted concept in Excel, it's really a reflection of those tags that you apply to the Power BI data set. So it really is one and the same. And what that does is it enables an organization or subject matter experts in the organization to mark the most authoritative and trustworthy data, because in many organizations, there's a big population of Excel users. And for them, understanding which data types are the best ones to use can be sometimes tricky. And so what we do is when you mouse over that data type, or when you expand the info card after linking a cell, you'll see that where that data type comes from, the data set, whether it's endorsed with a certified or promoted flag, as well as any sensitivity labels that might be applied to it. So it really helps you understand what data you're connected to so that you know that you're making decisions based off of the right data.
Thanks, Wukash. Appreciate it. Our next question, we're going to throw over to Guy Hunkin. Guy, the question here is, can developers create their own data types without being a corporation?
And I'm Guy Hunking. I'm a program manager in the Excel team. So the question is yes. And this is actually what Power Query Data Types is all about. With Power Query Data Types, you don't have to be a part of the organization. You don't need a Power BI license. With Power Query Data Types, you can just import data with Power Query, as you usually do, from any source that is supported today in Power Query in Excel, like files, databases, online services, and so on. Once you import the data, you can go into a Power Query editor, and from there, you will have a tab which is called Transform. One of the buttons in the Transform tab is called Create a Data Type. So you just select several columns which are relevant for your data type, like a customer data type or a sales data type. You collapse them into an entity, and then you load the final result into the grid. And again, this functionality is publicly available for anyone who has a Power Query in his or her version of Excel. You just need to be an Office 365 subscriber for this.
Thanks so much, Guy. And as we answer these questions, any follow-up questions you have, go ahead and post them into that chat for the Ask a Question, and we'll try to follow up with those as well. The next question I'm going to send over to David. So David, here's kind of a question for you. How would I find the original source of any data that's automatically inserted in this way, like if I need to reference it?
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm David, program manager on the Excel team. To learn where the data is coming from, in each of the linked data type cells, you have an icon that Casey was showing, and you can click it. In the card, you will see at the bottom what the source of this data type is. So it could be Bing, it could be Power BI, it could be Wolfram, and specifically for the data types from Power BI, you can also see at the bottom of the card details about the workspace, the data set that this information is coming from. So all from the data types card directly in Excel.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, David. Carrie, we haven't met you yet, so I'm going to throw our next question over to you. And it's kind of about Wolfram Alpha data types. So, hey, Carrie, what are some more examples of the data types coming with the Wolfram Alpha integration?
Yes, thanks, Casey. Hi, I'm Carrie Moran, and I'm so excited to tell you a little bit about Wolfram data types. So we're going to add more than 100 data types across several categories to Excel. Categories like food, movies, space, chemistry, universities, and location. And take the location category, for example. There are more than 50 data types ranging from countries and states to museums and airports to mountains and oceans. And each data type has many fields with additional information. If you want to try the beta of Wolfram data types, please join the Office Insider program. And if you do, please make sure to send us your feedback. Thank you, Casey.
Thanks, Carrie. I know I'm especially excited for Wolfram Alpha data types. I've been a part of that partnership, and we're thrilled to get this out there soon. Going back to Power BI data types and Power Query data types a little bit here, we've got a question around security. So Wukash, I'm going to ask you this one. Is this data secure? You know, how does data security work for data coming in through Power BI?
Yeah, I think it's a great question, top of mind for many customers. So in Power BI, securing organizational data is top of mind. First, we have a permissions model, so you can determine who can or cannot connect to that data type at a permissions level. So I can say, for example, for a human resources data type, that only people in the human resources team can access it. Now, within a data set itself, you also have row-level security. What that means is individual records can be secured so that, for example, I might be able to see one record, Casey might be able to see a different record based off who we are and when we're accessing the data. And of course, the data modeler, the person building that data set, has a lot of control over what facets of that data, whether it's summarized tables I can access or whether it's the raw detailed data. So it's really very powerful. Now, when we talk about building a data type from one of these data sets, we're actually bringing all of that richness into Excel. Additionally, if you've set a sensitivity label through Microsoft Information Protection, and I think the demo showed an example of this, it flows automatically into Excel for users. So if you as a data modeler or as the data set owner set a sensitivity label and say, hey, you know, this is really confidential data, it shouldn't be shared, or maybe there's a policy that requires that file to be encrypted, those things can flow into Excel and automatically apply to that workbook. So across all of those areas, we really want to make sure that there's a seamless system. The last thing is to say is access to Power BI is audited, right? So you can actually check who's accessing what throughout the system. So this actually provides a great level of governance and security for the data that you have.
Thanks. A follow-up question there. Can I set a privacy level to user on a specific data type?
Yeah, and that's done through the data set itself, right? So you go into the data set settings in Power BI, and then you apply that privacy, that sensitivity label to it, and then that will flow out into Excel.
Thanks, Wukash. Guy, let's go over to you for this next question. Does custom data type exist in the workbook only, or are they also distributed via the data source?
Hi. So when it comes to Power Query-based data types, those are limited to the workbook only. So once you create a data type with Power Query, you can then send the workbook to other people in your organization, and this is the level of exposure you get. But if you work with Power BI data types, those are actually shared with everyone in your organization. So other colleagues can connect and create Power BI data types. And it works the same for Wolfram and stock and geography as well. Those are exposed to everyone.
Thanks, Guy. That's very helpful. We really only have time for one more question. So unfortunately, I'm going to throw it over to David. And I think this will be a great question to end on. How do I get started using Power BI data types?
Great question. The way Excel knows this is a piece of information that should be surfaced as data types is by marking the table as feature table in Power BI. So this is done in Power BI desktop. You basically select the table, flip the toggle for feature table, and then once you publish it to a workspace, every user that has access to that workspace will see the data type in the Excel gallery in data types. So that's how you can get started.
Thanks so much, David. I'm really excited for everyone to try and get started today, right after this call. But unfortunately, I know that was a quick Q&A today, but we're at time and need to wrap up here. But our team will stay in the IM for a little bit to answer a few more questions for those that want to stick around. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. We're excited for you to try out these data types for yourselves, and we want to hear your feedback and find out how you're putting data types to work for you. So we hope these improvements simplify your access to trusted live data and make information gathering and consumption easier than ever. We want you to make the best decisions possible, and we want to save you time. So please try it out, give us your feedback, and we look forward to following up with you on this great progress we've made. Thanks again, everyone. Bye.